The stars beyond Saturn glowed faintly in the distance. Cold, empty, silent. But that silence was broken when Earth's deep space station received a signal. Faint, broken, and old. It repeated the same emergency code again and again. The source? Argon 7. Argon 7. The Asylum space station had vanished 7 years ago without a trace. It was declared lost. Its 112 patients and 24 staff presumed dead. There were no signs of explosion, crash, or distress. It had simply disappeared while orbiting Saturn. And now, the signal had returned. On Earth, the United Space Council moved quickly. Something wasn't right. The signal wasn't natural. It was weak, like someone or something was struggling to speak through the static. And it was only one word on repeat. Help. They formed a mission immediately. 3 specialists were selected. Commander Reece, a veteran space officer with calm nerves and a sharp eye. Dr. Alara, a brilliant scientist known for her work with neural anomalies. And Kellen, a young but gifted AI operator who had a strange way of understanding machines. Inside the sleek exploration ship Prometheus, the crew listened as the signal grew stronger while approaching Saturn. The giant planet loomed ahead, its rings shimmering like blades in space. "We're getting close," Kellen said quietly, staring at the monitors. "Too close." Commander Reece checked the instruments. Everything was working, except for the comms. Every few minutes, strange interference distorted their equipment. Static hissed. Sometimes, words whispered through it. Alara leaned forward. "That's not just noise. Did anyone else hear that?" Kellen nodded slowly. It said, "Don't come back." Reece looked out the window. The stars looked the same. But something in the darkness felt wrong. Heavy, like the silence of a room just after a scream. Within hours, the ship reached Saturn's outer orbit. And there it was. Argon 7. Floating. Dead. The station drifted in the dark. Exactly where it had been when it disappeared. The same orbit, the same orientation. But its surface looked old. Scratched, like it had been dragged through time. The lights flickered in some windows, like a heartbeat that didn't want to stop. "No heat signatures," Kellen reported. "But wait, there's low power. Something's running in there." "Life support?" Alara asked. "Hard to tell. The data is scrambled." Reece squinted at the monitors. "Any life signs?" Kellen hesitated. "Nothing strong. But there are tiny spikes. Like something is moving. Could be rats. Could be something else." "There were no animals on that station," Alara whispered. "Only patients. And staff." As the Prometheus aligned with Argon 7's docking port, lights on the old Asylum station lit up one by one. Like it was waking up, the docking clamps engaged automatically, even though they shouldn't have been able to. "It knows we're here," Kellen muttered. "Prepare to board," Reece ordered. They suited up, not in full armor. There was no sign of attack or contagion, but they carried light weapons, just in case. The airlock hissed as the door opened. A cold wind rushed out from the station. It smelled like metal. And something else. Something rotten. The first step inside was difficult. The floor creaked under their boots. The walls were covered in dust, but not evenly. Some spots looked like fingers had been dragged across them. Drawings made from dirt, or maybe blood, decorated the walls. Strange symbols. Circles. Eyes. Spiral teeth. "This place isn't abandoned," Alara whispered. "It's haunted." The station lights flickered again, and one hallway briefly lit up at the end, before going dark again. Reece's voice came over the comm. "Stick together. No splitting up." They moved slowly, passing rooms that looked frozen in time. Some beds still had sheets. Chairs were knocked over. Tablets and logs still glowed dimly. In the medical bay, an O4 bag still dripped clear fluid into a cracked floor. Kellen stopped in front of a display screen. Logs are corrupted, but there's a pattern. The screen showed dates, but not Earth dates. The timestamp showed the station had only been gone for 13 hours. "That's not possible," Reece said. From their perspective, Ilera murmured. They never left, or time didn't pass for them. But for us, it's been 7 years. Reece tapped his comm. Base, this is Commander Reece. We have visual on Argon 7. Station is intact. We're going deeper to assess. Static. Only Static replied. They can't hear us, Kellen said. We're cut off. As they reached the central hub of the station, lights flickered above them again. A voice came through the speakers. It was Reece's own voice. Leave now. The crew stopped moving. Reece's face turned pale. I didn't say that. The hallway ahead lit up. Footsteps echoed from somewhere deep inside. The crew turned quickly. No one was there. Movement detected, Kellen said, staring at the sensor. It's on this deck. West corridor. Reece drew his weapon. Ilera clutched her scanner tightly. The three moved as a unit down the west hallway, the shadows dancing with every flicker of the failing lights. They reached an old therapy room. The door was slightly open. It creaked as Reece pushed it open with the barrel of his weapon. Inside was a table, overturned chairs, and scattered pages. On one wall, the words she lives were written again and again, carved deep into the metal. Suddenly, the temperature dropped. Their breath turned to mist. The lights buzzed. Then, a shadow moved behind the glass window on the far side of the room. It wasn't walking. It floated. It had no clear form, just long limbs too thin and a face that didn't move like flesh should. Its head turned without turning. Kellen froze. His voice trembled as he whispered, "That's not human." The moment the crew stepped deeper into Argon 7, a heavy silence fell around them. It wasn't a silence of an abandoned place. It was deeper, like the station itself was holding its breath. Lights above flickered softly, barely holding on to power. The air smelled like rust and something rotten, something old. Yet, somehow, the atmosphere was still breathable. Dr. Ilera took a cautious breath, her face twisted with disgust. "It smells like blood," she said softly. Commander Reece moved ahead with careful steps. The floors creaked under their boots. Each hallway seemed to stretch longer than it should. Time didn't feel right. Their suit clocks glitched. The gravity inside flickered slightly, sometimes pulling harder, sometimes almost disappearing. Kellen tapped his wrist device, checking readings. "Time here is unstable. Our ship's clock says it's been 20 minutes. My personal timer says 5. Ilera added, "I scanned the logs in the control room. The last entry is from 13 hours ago. That's when the station vanished from its own record. But for Earth, it's been 7 years," Reece said. "This place has been missing in space for 7 whole years." They moved toward the central hallway. The lights buzzed louder here. On the walls, something was drawn. Strange symbols, spirals, eyes, shapes that didn't make sense. Some of them were drawn in dark, dry red. Ilera touched one gently with her gloved finger. "It's blood," she whispered. "Oh, dry blood." Farther ahead, they came upon the medical bay. The door was sealed tight. Scratch marks surrounded the edges from the inside. Someone had tried to claw their way out. "There's no power to unlock this," Reece said. "We'll need tools." Why would they lock themselves in? Kellen asked. Ilera looked around. Or maybe they were locked in. In the hallway beyond, emergency lights blinked on for a second, just enough for Kellen to see movement, something dark and fast, like a person running. But when he turned, the hallway was empty. "I saw someone," Kellen whispered. "Just now." Reece raised his weapon. "Where?" "Down that corridor, moving fast. Looked like a man. Maybe one of the staff?" Ilera said, though she didn't sound hopeful. "They'd be dead by now," Reece replied. 7 years in a place like this? No supplies? No rescue. But to them, Ilera said, it's only been 13 hours. They moved quickly, following the corridor. The station felt tighter now. The walls, they didn't seem still. They pulsed slightly, like something was breathing. It wasn't loud, but they could feel it, like a heartbeat under the metal. Kellen froze in place. His scanner beeped. He raised it. Life signs. Faint. Several. Moving. Reece looked at him. Where? Everywhere. They're not staying still. It's like they're watching us. The team continued toward the patient quarters. Rooms were open, beds tossed, sheets shredded. Some walls had words scratched deep into them. Some in English, others in symbols they didn't recognize. She lives. The walls have teeth. Time is a lie. Ilera stepped into one of the rooms and picked up a notebook. Most of the pages were ripped out, but the last few lines said, "Don't listen to the voices. Don't follow your own voice." Kellen's hand began to shake. He turned his head slowly. "Did someone just call me?" No one spoke, Reece replied. Kellen looked back down the hallway they came from. I heard my name. In my voice. Calling me." Ilera's face turned pale. "They're copying us." The air grew colder as they reached the recreation room. The ceiling lights flickered, showing broken chairs and tables. A projector screen at the far end turned on by itself. Static played across it, and then a face appeared. Blurry, twisted. Its eyes were all black. The crew stared at it. The face began to speak, but the voice was jumbled. It shifted between Kellen, Reece, and Ilera's voices. All mixed, all wrong. Reece raised his weapon and shot the projector. The screen shattered. "We're leaving this room," he said sharply. But as they turned back into the hallway, they saw a figure standing far down the corridor. Tall, unmoving, its head tilted. No features, just the shape of a human. Reece took a step forward. "Identify yourself." The figure didn't move. Then suddenly, the lights went out. In pitch darkness, they heard footsteps. Running, right past them. Ilera screamed. A cold gust rushed by her, brushing her hair through the helmet's open collar. Kellen activated his flashlight. Nothing was there. "We need to get back to the ship," Ilera said, breathing heavily. Reece nodded. "We regroup. We plan. We don't separate." As they turned head back toward the docking port, a deep voice echoed through the hallway. It was Reece's voice. "Reece," it called. He stopped. "Reece, help me." The voice came from the dark hallway ahead. Reece looked back at the others. "That wasn't me." "I know," Ilera said. "Don't answer it." But the voice called again. Softer, weaker. "Reece, please, you left me." He stepped forward slightly, heart pounding. The voice sounded so real, so familiar. Then, the emergency lights flashed again, and the hallway was empty. But something moved, something in the dark, watching them. Patient number 9 sat in the far corner of a sealed observation room, knees pulled tight to his chest, skin pale as paper. His hair was thin and his eyes were clouded white, yet his mouth still moved. He whispered the same phrase over and over. "She's still feeding. She's still feeding." Commander Reece stood at the door with Dr. Ilera beside him, both watching through the glass. "How is this possible?" Ilera whispered. "No food, no water, no aging?" "I don't know," Reece replied, gripping the strap of his gear tighter. "But we're going in." The door hissed open. The smell hit them first. Something rotten, sour, metallic. The air was breathable, but it clung to the lungs like damp mold. They stepped inside slowly, the lights flickering above them. Ilera crouched in front of the patient, her voice soft. "Patient number 9? Can you hear me? I'm Dr. Ilera. We're here to help." The man didn't respond at first. Then, suddenly, he raised his head, staring through her like she wasn't real. "She followed us when we vanished. She came from the space between." Kellen's voice came through the comms, nervous. "I'm accessing old station footage. You guys need to see this." Back on the bridge, video logs played on the flickering screens. The images were shaky, damaged, warped. In one, patients crawled on the ceiling like spiders. Their mouths moved in sync, whispering something unintelligible. In another, staff members screamed without making a sound. Then black shadows emerged from the walls, wrapping around bodies like smoke. "Pause that," Reece ordered. He leaned in close to the screen. In one frame, a figure stood in the center of the medical bay. Tall, wrong. Its face was all teeth and no eyes. Back in the observation room, Illyra asked, "Who is she?" "The one you're talking about." The man's body began to shake. His whispers grew louder. "She's still feeding. Don't let her out. Don't let her out." Then he screamed, eyes wide, body arching back. The lights above them exploded, plunging the room into darkness. Kellen's voice came through again, panicked. "Doors are unlocking themselves across the whole station. We've lost control." Reece and Illyra rushed out, sealing the room behind them. Down the corridor, the sound of metal groaning filled the air, followed by something else, something dragging. "Where's Ava?" Illyra asked. Ava had been monitoring the lower deck systems. Her comm channel was silent. "Ava, do you copy?" Reece repeated. No answer. Kellen checked the motion trackers. "There's movement, something big, shifting between decks. But our cameras aren't picking it up. It's like it's avoiding them." Reece grabbed his pulse rifle and motioned to Illyra. "We're finding her. Kellen, stay on the bridge. Lock down what you can." The hallways flickered with emergency lights. The deeper they went, the more unstable the station became. Gravity pulsed. Floors trembled under their boots, and the walls, some of them looked soft, like they were breathing. "It's getting worse," Illyra said. Her scanner buzzed. Faint life signs, but they're scattered. Moving. Suddenly, the floor behind them thumped. They spun around, weapons raised. But there was nothing, just the echo of something unseen. They reached the maintenance hallway, where Ava had last reported. Her tablet lay on the floor, screen cracked. The walls here were covered in deep scratches, like claws had torn through metal. Reece picked up the tablet. "This is her last recording. Let's play it." The video showed Ava walking through the corridor. Then she stopped, looking to her left. She said, "Hello? Who's there?" The screen turned static. That was it. Kellen's voice came through again. "Something's moving on deck 3. I think it's heading your way." Reece turned to Illyra. "We're not alone here." They started back toward the lift, but the walls began to shift. Not physically, but visually. The color of the metal darkened. Then something strange happened. A section of the wall in front of them split, not like a mechanical door, but like tearing skin. A long crack formed, oozing black liquid. "Reece?" Illyra whispered, stepping back. From within the crack, something pushed. Fingers, long, pale, not human. Reece raised his weapon. "Back away slowly. Don't run." The fingers curled around the edge of the cracked wall, followed by a hand. It had too many joints. The skin looked stretched. It didn't move like a living thing. It moved like something pretending to be alive. The crack widened. Behind the hand, a face began to emerge. But it wasn't a face. It was a hole filled with rows of sharp, dripping teeth. Then the station's emergency lights went red. "Something's breaching internal bulkheads." Kellen shouted from the comms. "You need to move now." Reece and Illyra turned and ran, the hallway behind them echoing with wet footsteps and dragging metal. As they turned a corner, the wall behind them sealed shut on its own. Reece hit his chest comm, Kellen. "Seal all decks. That thing, whatever it is, it's moving freely. We need containment now." Kellen's voice cracked with static. "Trying, but it's overriding me. It's in the system. It's learning." Reece looked back at the now closed wall. "It was waiting for us." Illyra nodded slowly. "And we just let it out." The hallway lights flickered again. The sound of whispering started. This time, not from patient. It was coming from everywhere. And then the station started to hum. A low, vibrating tone that shook the air. Reece and Illyra stood still, both breathing hard. Something had begun, and they were no longer the ones in control. The silence in the lower decks was different. It wasn't empty like the rest of the station. It was heavy like it was hiding something. Commander Reece led the team deeper into the Asylum. Their footsteps echoed strangely, as if the metal floor swallowed sound. Kellen stopped near a wall that looked different. It was smoother, newer, like it had been added later. He scanned it with his device. "There's a hollow space behind it," he said. With some effort, they opened a narrow panel. and revealed a hidden door. There was no record of this chamber in the Asylum's blueprints. The door had symbols scratched into it, spirals and screaming faces, burned into the metal. Reece hesitated. Then he opened it. Inside, the chamber was warm and humid. The walls pulsed gently, like lungs breathing. In the center was something large. It was alive. It looked like a cluster of nerves and brain matter, wrapped in dark tendrils, twitching and glowing faintly. Dr. Alara stepped closer. Her scanner beeped wildly. It's neural tissue, but not human. At least not anymore. They found old logs on a terminal in the corner. The entries were encrypted, but Kellen broke through. The logs revealed everything. Years ago, the Asylum had conducted illegal experiments. They tried to create a neural hive, using brain matter from unstable patients. The idea was to build a shared consciousness that could help cure insanity. But the experiment failed. The parasite, created from pain and madness, became aware. It grew rapidly, feeding on the patient's emotions. It learned to control minds, create hallucinations, and twist memories. It named itself Naira. Naira didn't just live in the chamber. It lived in the entire station. It had taken the minds of everyone on board. And when the station vanished, it wasn't malfunction. Naira had taken it into a different dimension. Somewhere dark, Dr. Alara stared at the logs, horrified. They knew it was dangerous. They locked it down and buried the records. But it wasn't enough. As they read, Reece began to feel dizzy. His thoughts were breaking. He saw a vision. Earth covered in red light. Cities burning. People screaming. But no sound came from their mouths. He blinked. The vision was gone. But something stayed. A whisper in his mind. Kellen tried to scan Naira again, but his device exploded in sparks. The parasite twitched. Lights in the chamber flickered. Then Dr. Alara gasped. Her eyes rolled back, and she stepped forward. Her voice was not her own. It was deeper, filled with static. You brought me home, she said. Everyone froze. Alara looked at them, smiling with someone else's face. Naira was speaking through her. The station creaked. Somewhere above them, something heavy moved. Reece reached for his comms, but they were dead. The air turned cold. Kellen took a step back, whispering, We should never have come here. Naira tilted Alara's head. I remember your world, it said. It tasted beautiful. Reece felt the voice inside his skull, digging, searching. His memories shifted again. His wife's face distorted. His home crumbled. The vision of Earth burning returned, clearer now, and Naira was there. The station wasn't just a prison. It was a seed, and Earth was a garden. Commander Reece ran to the hallway with Kellen behind him, dragging Dr. Alara, who still hadn't fully recovered from Naira's possession. The air was getting heavier, thicker. Lights above them flickered, and the station groaned like it was alive. They reached the main entrance. The emergency override panel was already activated. Reece slammed his hand against the panel. Open the door! Now! The door hissed open. Bright light spilled through, but when they stepped through, they were in the same hallway. Reece froze. Kellen blinked. Alara looked up slowly. It was the exact same corridor they had just left. Same crack wall. Same blinking light. Same blood smear on the floor. Kellen whispered, We didn't go anywhere. We didn't move. They tried again. Turned back. Took a different hallway. Another door. More running. Every exit led back to the same place. The station had rearranged itself. Dr. Alara groaned, holding her head. She's inside us now. She knows where we're going before we do. Kellen pulled out a small camera and placed it on the wall. We'll mark this spot, he said. Then they walked down another hallway. After 2 more turns and 1 stairwell, they came back to the camera. Reece looked around, breathing heavily. We're stuck in a loop. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed behind them. They turned. One of the crew members, Jackson, stood there, trembling, his eyes wide with panic. I can't take it anymore, he said. Then he raised his gun to his head and pulled the trigger. His body dropped to the floor. Kellen and Reece rushed over. Blood pooled beneath Jackson's head. Then they heard footsteps. Jackson stepped out from the next hallway. Alive. Ho! Looking confused. What just happened? Alara backed away. This isn't real. Time's broken. Reece stared at the dead body, then at the walking Jackson. This place, it's looping us, duplicating us. Kellen ran to the Asylum's core terminal and began typing. He tried to override the system, reset the structure. The AI's voice responded with laughter. You cannot exit, it said. You were never meant to. Kellen's hand shook. It's not just Naira. The whole station's infected. Alara clutched her head again. She's talking. She's always talking. In the walls, in the air, my blood. Reece looked at her. What is she saying? She says we've always been here, and we always will be. Suddenly, screens nearby lit up with distorted footage. Faces of crew, but older, dead, twisted, dozens of times, dying over and over. Reece watched one video, himself being pulled into the wall. Another, him shooting Alara. Another, him walking into fire. He gasped, I've seen these before. Memories flooded his mind. Flashes, pain, blood, screaming, always ending here. Alara's voice dropped. You've been here, Reece. Hundreds of times. Maybe more. Kellen pulled away from the terminal. She exists outside time. That's how she's doing this. She can bend it, twist it. We're not just trapped in space. We're trapped in her mind. Reece shook his head. Then how do we fight her? The lights dimmed. The ground shook. Outside the cruise ship, their only way home, detached from the docking bay. They saw it through the camera feed. It drifted for a few seconds. Then it exploded. Flames bloomed in the dark sky of Saturn. Alara whispered, We're never leaving. The station went silent. The loop began again. The walls were no longer walls. They pulsed like living tissue, warm to the touch and bleeding when scratched. Reece stared in horror as a bloody smear slowly shaped itself into a face. One of the crew who disappeared 7 years ago. The eyes blinked. Lips moved. It mouthed his name. Commander, help me. Dr. Alara tried to back away, but the corridor seemed to close in. A hand burst from the wall and grabbed her arm. She screamed. Before Reece or Kellen could react, she was pulled inside, into the flesh. The wall sealed up like nothing ever happened. Only her muffled scream remained for a few seconds before fading into silence. Kellen dropped to his knees, trembling. We're not just being hunted. We're part of it now. The ship's AI beeped erratically. Monitors showed corrupted recordings, faces screaming silently, and repeating loops of patients whispering the same phrase. Join the mind. Join the mind. Reece stumbled into what looked like a forgotten operations chamber. Dusty, untouched, but still powered. In the center was a console, alien in design, not human tech. Beneath the flickering glass panel were symbols and one large red lever marked with a universal warning. System purge. Kellen entered slowly, eyes wide. It's a kill switch for the whole station. But if we destroy it, Reece whispered, staring at the console, Naira might escape. Into space. Into anything. Everything. Or maybe we trap her forever. We don't know. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. A deep hum filled the chamber. The console screen changed. A familiar voice spoke, Alara's voice but wrong. Slow. Hollow. Why run, Reece? Why struggle? We can make you eternal. Reece gritted his teeth. Whereas Alara, she is here. She is safe. She sees now. You can too. The screen flickered again. It showed Earth, but not the Earth he knew. Monolithic temples, strange lights in the sky, and masses of humans bowing to a colossal, shifting shape. Naira's form, stretching above the clouds. They worship me. They understand. You will too. Kellen stared at the screen in horror. Is this a future? Possibility, Naira whispered. Join me. Be part of something greater. Never age. Never fear. Just feed me. Reece's head throbbed. Memories flashed him in a straitjacket. Him, laughing in a padded room. A voice asking him questions. A needle going into his arm. Wait. That didn't happen, did it? She's messing with your mind, Commander, Kellen said, shaking him. None of this is real. We have to end it. Now. Naira laughed. The room shook. The faces in the wall screamed. The control panel began to melt. Reece grabbed the lever. Don't, Naira said, her voice now sounding like his dead mother. You can still be saved. You can live. You can see the stars forever. His hand trembled, but he remembered the asylum, the patience, the horror, the promise he made to his crew. And Ilera, I'm done playing God, he said. He pulled the lever. A blinding white light filled the chamber. The scream stopped. Then silence. The rescue team was startled as they approached a massive, abandoned asylum station floating silently in space. Argon 7 had been lost for 7 years, and now it was drifting dark and empty, as if nothing had ever happened. The ship's systems flickered to life as they began their inspection, and the crew members felt a strange chill run down their spines. Commander Jensen led the team, his mind already racing. What happened here? Why did it disappear, and where was the crew? There had been no communications for years, and now it appeared as though nothing had changed on the station. As they moved through the station's corridors, they found nothing at first, just empty rooms and lifeless halls. But there was something unsettling about the silence. The air felt too still, almost as if it had been holding its breath for years. The crew moved cautiously, their boots echoing against the cold metal floors. Then they found the logs. Jensen turned the small tablet over in his hands, reading the strange file that had appeared within the ship's systems. It was labeled Reece log /_01. The crew stared at the screen, wondering who Reece was. They had only heard of the original crew members briefly in the reports, but no one had mentioned a Reece. The moment Jensen opened the log, a chill filled the room. The voice that came through the speakers was unmistakable. I didn't stop her. I only gave her a new shell. The word sent a shiver through the team. Who was speaking? What had happened to the original crew? The tone of the voice was disturbingly familiar, but it couldn't be. Reece had been presumed dead. Had he somehow left a message? The whispers started soon after. At first, they were quiet, barely audible over the hum of the station systems. But then they grew louder, twisting and warping, until they were impossible to ignore. The crew members froze, trying to pinpoint the source of the strange noise. One of the engineers, Sanchez, clenched his fists as the voices grew closer. It's coming from the walls, he muttered, his eyes wide with fear. It's coming from everywhere. The crew turned as one, their flashlights flickering in the growing darkness. The walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting, as if the station itself were alive. The whispers blended together, forming a single, incomprehensible murmur, and the crew members felt their hearts race. As they moved deeper into the station, the air seemed to thicken. The ship's old AI systems began to power up on their own, lighting up rooms that had been dark for years. It was almost as though the station had been waiting for them to arrive. Jensen tried to stay calm. Stay focused, he ordered, but his voice sounded hollow in the overwhelming silence. We need to find answers. The logs might tell us more. But the more they uncovered, the more the situation felt wrong. The logs revealed nothing except strange, garbled messages, half-formed phrases, and cryptic warnings. There was no sign of the original crew, and nothing about what had happened to them. Only one thing was certain. Something was still here. The team moved toward the control room, their footsteps quick and tense. As they rounded the corner, they saw something they weren't expecting. A strange object, a small, dark shape, had appeared outside the station's window. It was slowly drifting toward them. One of the crew members, Harper, pointed. What is that? Jensen's stomach dropped. I don't know, but it doesn't look like anything from Earth. They rushed to the observation deck, their hearts pounding in their chests. The dark object was growing larger, and it was unmistakably connected to the station. It was part of Argon 7, something that had broken off or been ejected, and was now returning. Jensen's mind raced. The log, the whispers, the dark object. It all pointed to one terrifying conclusion. The station hadn't just disappeared. It had been taken. taken by something that had never left. Something had been feeding on the madness, the fear, and the suffering of the crew, and had found a way to survive. "We need to leave," Sanchez said, panic rising in his voice. But it was too late. The station seemed to come alive, and the doors began to slam shut around them. One by one, they were trapped in a labyrinth of corridors, their only escape route sealed off by an unseen force. Then the whispers grew louder, more insistent. "You opened the door. Now you have to live in the asylum." Jensen's pulse quickened. The voice, familiar and yet alien, felt like it was coming from inside his mind. The walls seemed to close in on them, the air thick with the stench of rust and decay. The crew tried to break free, but it was as if the very station had become their prison. Suddenly, the air around them shifted. The station's lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The voices had stopped, but now the crew could hear something else, scraping, like nails dragging across metal. Harper screamed, "What's happening?" The walls seemed to pulse with a sickening rhythm, as if they were alive. The floor trembled beneath their feet, and the whispering began again, this time more frantic, more desperate. The crew was being drawn into something that was beyond their understanding. The station had never been empty. It had always been alive, feeding, waiting. And now, it was time for Earth to join it. Jensen's heart raced. He had to get them out. But even as he turned to order the crew to the escape pods, a terrible realization struck him. They were too late. The station wasn't just alive. It had evolved. It had become something else, something that existed beyond time and space. And now it was coming for Earth. A sharp pain shot through his head as the whispers grew louder, more deafening. They were inside his mind now, wrapping around his thoughts like tendrils of madness. The voice of Reece echoed in his ears, the last warning. "You opened the door. Now you have to live in the asylum." Jensen fell to his knees, his vision blurring. The whispers consumed him, and in the distance he could see it. The station had evolved, and now it was returning. It was no longer just a place. It was a living nightmare. Outside the station, the dark object that had once been part of Argon 7 continued its slow, inevitable path toward Earth. And as it entered orbit, the first tendrils of Naira reached out, spreading like a dark virus. The asylum had returned, and this time it would not let go. The crew had failed. Earth had failed. The asylum was coming.